Awesome. Today we're talking about backyard apartments. This is a fun, exciting new project that we're getting into, and we are the Next Wave. And the name of the company is Next Wave. It's an homage both to the next surf wave in San Diego, but also the next wave of housing. These new laws have come out that make these backyard apartments a new, awesome, fun, exciting thing.
Yeah, and of course, quick disclaimer, we're not lawyers, we're not accountants, and we are not making any promises, of course, here. We do strive for the returns that we discuss, but again, you want to consult your professional. So, we are not the professionals, only at what we do.
Exactly. And so today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to quickly go over the jobs in an investment portfolio and then why we love backyard apartments. And of course, we're going to be focusing on a single deal at 4749 Choctaw Drive. And then also talking about, of course, when you invest stuff, we want to talk about risks and it's always fun to talk about the upside and the potential returns, but we want to talk about the different risks and how we mitigate those things, and then exit strategies and how to sign up.
Yeah, a little bit about myself, Marcelo Valdez. I actually, kind of going back, I graduated from the Naval Academy, went into commission as an officer in the Marine Corps, spent time there. When I got out, I went to graduate school in the University of San Diego because I'd been stationed at Camp Pendleton. Um, Through there, afterwards I managed to get assigned into Qualcomm, initially as a project manager and becoming a senior director business development. Did a couple of overseas assignments, one to Brazil where I met my wife, and then one to the UK and came back. And eventually moved on from Qualcomm, decided I really wanted to stay in San Diego. So what was something that really interested me that I could do, and that was things involved in real estate. So I have my general contractor's license, been investing in land, uh, anything from land to house flips to full-on construction as a general contractor, and now doing what we're doing here with adding infill development in units with backyard apartments.
Yeah, I'm I'm Andrew Erickson. I'm my background is engineering and applied math. In fact, I have a special mug here. My mug says "Freak in the Sheets." I'm a big spreadsheet guy, big numbers guy. And so I started out my career as an engineer at Qualcomm. So Bill also we were coworkers at one point. And since then, I've gone full entrepreneur and I've created several companies that we've built up to a couple $1 million a year and have sold those companies. So it had a nice little exit on those. And of course, I got very excited about real estate and these new opportunities to build stuff here in San Diego. And so that's where I've gone into. I'm also a head coach inside of the Titan Mastermind, which is a mastermind for entrepreneurs. And so that's it's one of my other things too. So I also I got to update this deck because it's not $5 million anymore. It's $10 million now with the current funds. So I Marcel and I together manage over $10 million of real estate. So one thing that's really fun, we're getting into this thing that we're doing here is we have this vision, right? This vision to build 100 ADUs, an ADU is a backyard apartment by the end of 2026. And it's just really because San Diego is so unaffordable now. The prices here are insane. It's over $1 million median price for a home in the city. And I absolutely love San Diego. I've lived here for almost 14, 15 years now. And I just wish so many more of my friends could stay here. I hope that my children have the ability to stay here when they're older, and so we're just pushing to build more affordable housing here. And right now we're this goal of 100. We're already at 41 of 100 so far, just in the last 12 months. And so we're on track to hit that 100. And so that's why that's our big vision is building creating affordable housing here in San Diego.
Yeah, and just one other point to that is obviously there's a financial component. We're doing this for profit, so it's pretty amazing that we can build affordable housing and do it profitably. But we're also just mission driven in the fact that there's what is often referred to in the housing industry as the missing middle, right? So we're not doing luxury. We're either any product that's for sale or for rent. It's actually for people that live and work here, and let's just call them normal people, right? So That's what we do. And it's only in San Diego, so we're super specific. We are experts in our local area, right? When we're able to underwrite in literally minutes, sometimes seconds. Sometimes an agent will send me something. I can just look, I can go over to the map and I can say, yeah, thanks, I'm gonna have to pass. So, uh, we also have, and Andrew, as he said, he's super into automation and the whole engineering and operations backside of things. So able to automatically underwrite anything that's on the market. And we also find products off market. So yeah, that's what we do. And in terms of scalability, we source the product. We also develop it ourselves. So I'm a general contractor. And so we try and keep things very tight, very efficient, again, very local. And for those returns.
Yeah, and so just to quickly go over one thing when we talk to investors is kind of talking about the different jobs that you need to have in your investment portfolio. And really, it kind of comes down to three different things, right? The first job of your investments is to hedge against inflation. So, just to prevent the loss of purchasing power, right? We also want to talk about long-term growth, right? Some goals you have in the for retirement or saving for college or something like that. And of course, the big one too is also diversifying. So moving risk reduction, diversifying the your investment here. And a big thing that's kind of interesting is we got this stat from Tiger 21, which is a mastermind for high net worth individuals, ultra wealthy individuals, and they asked everybody inside this mastermind what their allocation is. And a lot of people are business, self-employed business people, and so private equity is a big one for them because they own their own businesses. But a huge part of their portfolio here is real estate. So 25% is real estate in this case. So certainly makes a big portion of what your investment portfolio should look like.
Yeah, and Andrew, actually, you'll need to update that one. The new one just came out. I just saw it this
Oh
morning.
yeah.
28% real estate. So a
Well, there
little
you
bit up
go.
and a little drop in private. I think it was 28 and 28. So we can adjust that now. Yeah, so obviously you can invest, anybody can invest in real estate, right? So anybody can buy a duplex or whatever. And that's how I started out. My first house was a duplex. I lived in one side and I rented out the other. And then I moved
House
out and
hacking.
rented out. Yeah, yeah. But the thing is though, is it's not passive. People say, oh, I own real estate, but frankly now a lot of the real estate that we buy, either off market or on market, is from what we call tired landlords. So there are people who have actually owned the property, but they end up typically running it kind of into the ground because they realize that it's not at all passive. And the way I like to describe it is actually anytime you buy a piece of real estate, you have a business. So if you have three duplexes, you're running three separate businesses. So one thing you can do is deal with the tenants, toilets, and trash, or let we, who are the experts, do that. And then you do what you do best, which might be, in the medical or tech field or whatever. And you go concentrate on that and let us do what we do best.
Yeah, it's oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
so
Tell us about ADUs.
Yeah, so very quickly, everybody's heard about ADUs, I think. A lot of times they're called granny flats. And state of California actually implemented a law probably I think it was about 4 years ago where they said nobody in the state of California, no jurisdiction can stop anybody from building an ADU in their backyard. So that became something because there are a lot of local jurisdictions that found ways to create impediments to that. The city of San Diego took that and they said, well, that's great. We love that. We have such a housing crunch. What we're going to do is we're going to actually allow investors or individuals to actually build more than one ADU. And how do we allow them to do that? And that is by saying you get your one by right that the state of California gives you. But if you then provide one that set at an affordable housing rate, which is that rate is set by the federal government, so they put a cap on what you can charge for rent, then they said, we'll give you a bonus unit. And then you can continue to go on. And there's different different mixes, whether it's in a single family zone or a multifamily zone. But you can think about it simply as you get your one, or if it's a multifamily, you get two by right. And then if you provide an affordable one, you get a bonus one, and so on, depending on certain limits.
It's
So in this
interesting when
example, hmm?
yeah, it's interesting because they say affordable. some people think Section 8 housing, like the bottom 10%, homeless housing,
Mm.
certainly San Diego's pushing on that to help that kind of stuff. But this affordable is really just, like Marcelo said, workforce housing, or that kind of that middle income people, people making $80,000 a year, $60,000 a year, right? 100,000,
Yeah.
whatever. These aren't
Yeah.
these aren't luxury homes, but they're not the projects. These are nice affordable units for teachers, nurses, police officers, those
Yeah.
everyday people.
Students, military,
Students.
for sure.
Yeah, and so why do we like these backyard apartments? So I touched on it a little bit already, but the big thing here is that because the cities streamline these things, and so we're able to build them quickly, and quick means shorter investment windows, which means higher returns. So we design all of our projects. One of our number one criteria, number one criteria is don't lose investor money. Number two is return get a 20% return for investors. So strong returns is a great one. Next one here is short timelines, so 12 to 24 months. We have streamlined permitting process and then a streamlined building process. And of course, the nice thing is that Marcelo, he's going to touch on how many projects he's done, but every project is getting faster and faster just through both the city being better and of course Marcelo and the team being better at the system now. Also, it's a social good. Yeah, this is a for-profit company, but we're addressing a critical need for shortage of homes. It's insane the cost of housing here, and this is helping alleviate that thing. So we can make good profits and do good social good, and then finally political support. The mayor is very into this. He comes to a lot of our real estate masterminds and meetups and stuff like that, and just pushes and advocates for housing. And also the city council is also very into it. I have attended several city council meetings. They're long and boring, but I got to listen in to see what they're talking about. And of the nine council members, seven of them are very into housing. Two, of course, are kind of against it, but seven are very into it. So we have a lot of support for this stuff right now.
Yeah.
And then the way we do this process the reason why we're able to go so quick and get high returns is we have a six-step process. We acquire the properties, we renovate them. Usually there's a lot of value created right there in just the renovations. We permit them, build them, lease them, and sell them. And why do we lease them and sell them? It allows us to give very turnkey product to an to a buyer, to an investor buyer, right? And allows them to get a income based loan to get it, so they're able to afford the project better, right? Easier. And then the sell. We could hold on to them forever, but our business model right now is just to sell, so we can continue doing the development thing.
Yeah, and of course, return funds to our investors. So, and as Andrew had said, I've now done multiples of these, and coming out the back end of quite a few of these projects. So this is just one, is to give an example. This is a 10 unit. Originally purchased it as a duplex in a neighborhood of San Diego, very central neighborhood called Claremont. And so the purchase price, actually the purchase was, I think it was $1,050,000, but anyway, close to that. And then we have, rehab of the original 2 units, which needed, again, it was a tired landlord, needed to be completely gutted down to the studs and redone, and we redid everything, and now we're finished. So expect a nice return, and again, affordable and quick turnaround in less than 2 years. And this just shows, I won't read through all of these, but the projects that either I have completed or are just about completed, as well as what we have within the fund. So, because I've done some projects before, Andrew and I had teamed up to work on the fund. So the one at the top there, you can see it's actually a 3-story building. So it's 2 units. It's a 2-story 1 unit on top of a 1-story unit. So it's a total of 3 stories. And so we have a mix of all different types and good returns for all of them. And again, as Andrew said, gaining a lot of experience to be able to do this much, much quicker.
Yeah, this unit is pretty cool. I was pretty impressed when I saw this one. So you can see the one unit on the bottom, and then a stacked unit there on top.
Yeah, and it overlooks all of San Diego Bay. The view is jaw-dropping. It
Yeah,
overlooks the airport. It's incredible. It's like you're in a penthouse. It's amazing.
yeah, it's awesome. And the nice thing too with all these properties here, we're happy to tour any of these if anybody wants to tour these. We had a big open house at this project 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago.
Yep. Yep.
And it's now being Airbnb. That's one thing we didn't add to our whole process is that we do short-term and mid-term rentals on these things just to kind of don't really add it into our numbers just because it's a little bit kind of cherry. It's kind of a cherry on top, right? But this one, really nice property, 3 blocks from the beach, and we just super decked it out, beach themed, and we're renting it now on Airbnb. But we had a big open house and had about 25 people come through it, so it's pretty cool stuff. So always happy to show you guys.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
here's a nice little visual.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is the unit we'd sourced this unit off market. Again, like I'd mentioned, the tired landlord. We started the construction work in August, and we just had SDG&E hook up our electrical. And actually, the only reason we're not already done and rented is because of SDG&E. But now we're basically done. We're looking at certificate of occupancy mid next month. So from start of construction to first tenants moving in about 9 to 10 months time frame. Pretty cool. And we will talk a little bit more when we get to the risks and what we do to accelerate the process. But each one we do anticipate doing just improving just that little much better.
Yep. And so, well, the nice thing is that we've really dialed in this whole process. I wrote so I love automation, right? So I have my engineering background, and I created an automated tool that actually pulls information from Redfin and pulls listings on Redfin and pulls zoning information from the city and a few other places. We collect a bunch of information and then do a quick underwriting on it. So we literally underwrite every single property that's for sale in the city of San Diego, which is kind of fun. But here's our criteria. I won't go through every single part of it, but the short of it is we want to see basically single family homes or duplexes. We want to be in good neighborhoods, Class A, Class B. So, beaches are great, access to downtown. These are not nice neighborhoods. These are middle income to high income, not ghettos, right? Purchasing products from $500,000 to $2 million. It has to be in the city of San Diego. Those are the rules for us. It's all in the city, not the county. We've talked about expanding outside the city, but right now the scope of our current projects are all inside the city. And then we look at the same type of we want to have certain zoning and a certain size lot and certain buildable area. And then a big thing too is the neighborhoods we want to be in are neighborhoods where you get at least $2,000 a month for a 1 bedroom unit. And that is affordable in
Yeah,
San Diego.
exactly. There's always the
Yeah.
caveat there that is affordable in the city of San Diego.
Yes. And that's about half the city is half, maybe a third of the city is in this range. Like I said before, we have an automated underwriting process that pulls information in, which is pretty fun. And then the obviously we use a lot of manual control too, so that automation does the first pass, but then we do a detailed review and build a detailed pro forma, and then we also talk to land use lawyers and architects who specialize in this stuff to make sure that we are able to build and able to do the things that we think we can do. And of course, then we make an offer. That's our whole process. And that brings us to this deal. This deal is pretty awesome. It's on Choctaw Drive. Choctaw is a Native American tribe, so it's near San Diego State's campus, and San Diego State they're the Aztecs, and so all the streets over here are named after Native American groups. So that's kind of a fun little homage there to the Native American groups. But this house is it's a pretty standard single family home on a 7,000 square foot lot, almost 7,000 square feet. and it is zoned multifamily, so it allows us to build a little bit more than single family zone stuff. And we already have permits that are almost done. They'll be here in a few weeks, but we're at the very, very end of the permitting process. So the nice thing is that all the legal issues or the permitting question marks, those are already been resolved. All the stuff is already ready to go. And so it's already in that process of the buy, build, permits, permit, build, lease, and sell. We're already past the first three steps, and we're on step 4 of 6 now. So that's what we're raising for is the build portion of this. And the nice thing too is just as you can see here, there's a lot of great stuff around this part of the neighborhood. It's walking distance to restaurants, shopping, and of course, a big one there is it's walking distance to San Diego State campus, and also easy access to the freeway. So campus is less than a mile away, and these are all restaurants and shopping are just 2 blocks, what 2 blocks away. And San Diego State's been growing very, very fast. I didn't realize my niece was applying for college and she did not get into San Diego State, but got into a lot of UC schools, which are, I thought they were better than State, but apparently State is now a fantastic university, top 50 in the country, certainly top 100, I think top 50 now in the country, and they are enrolling more and more students. So it's pretty great spot. And here's the plan. Okay, so here's the current project. Here's the current layout, right? As you can see, single family home, and here's kind of the big flat backyard. This flat backyard is going to be turned into an 8-plex. And so each one of these units is 450. So half of them are 450 square feet and half of them are 600 square feet. So they're townhouse style, the bigger ones. So a nice little mix of 1 bedroom units there. And here's the kind of the details of all the financial stuff. And we have a detailed spreadsheet we can go through too if we have some time during our Q&A. But purchases for $1 million, building these 8 units, and there's our cost. We're expecting this to take right at 12 months. That's our very strong KPI is 12 months, but the range there is 10 to 16 months, and we expect we'll be collecting over $20,000 a month, and should be able to sell this project next summer for $3.4 million. And we, for investors who come in, we're expecting a 20 to 26% return. Those numbers are, I think they're probably on the conservative side of realistic. But we want to under promise and over deliver. And we also have preferred return to 6%. So we always, when we sell the property, the first profits go to pay back the equity. The next profits go to make sure everyone gets a 6% return. Just so we want to beat all the boring bonds and stuff like that. And then we have what's called an equity waterfall. I won't get too much into it because it gets a little complicated, but we have the investors get a majority of the profit up until they get a 16% return. And that way we can beat the stock market. And then after that, it gets split 70-30 the opposite way. So we're expecting a total, again, annualized return with that nice, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees at all. But a preferred return of 6% with that goal of hitting over 20% return.
Yeah, that's our goal. So, sometimes we talk about maybe putting this slide actually at the very beginning. Very important question, got going some volatility happening right now. So risk and how we see risk mitigation. So the first one, of course, is market fluctuation, whether that be interest rates or the rents, either dropping or staying flat, which actually is what we model, is just flat rents so that we don't project anything, I would say, unnecessarily positive in there. So what we do is actually we do precisely that. We just say we're going to assume that rents don't increase. We're not assuming that cap rates decrease because, of course, that would inflate the value at the end. So we really try and take a good look at the market. We understand our local market, We understand what the rents are. We understand what the trajectory is, say, of, like San Diego State and its growth. So that's something that we keep a tight lid on so that we're not, um, surprising to the downside. We also, when we do our raise, we want to raise enough to where we end up at roughly approximately a 50% loan to value, so that should we need to, should unexpected things happen and we need to actually keep the property and rent it out and cash flow it, that we can do that. So, we've had people come and offer us, hey, why don't you take a loan out at 90% AR, 90% loan to cost or 80% loan to cost, and say, no, thank you. We want to go in with a little bit more equity so we have more padding, and then we build in an additional padding that gets us that 50%. In terms of project timelines, as we've said, the one I showed you, that one is being completed in roughly about 9 to 10 months time frame. My goal is on this one is to be done absolutely committed within 9 months. And that includes SDG&E, which has been kind of our bigger challenge. Is actually, once we're all done, it's not actually the city that's been a challenge. It's been our local privately owned um, government managed monopoly, which is San Diego Gas and Electric. So we actually think we found a way to work with them so that we can hook up our electrical sooner. So that should help. Cost overruns, again, we have our own general contractor. We're the general contractor. So we keep a really tight lid on costs. And we're seeing that actually some costs have risen because, of course, the tariffs, but some have come down, like lumber's come down 5%.
Hmm.
And we expect also the cost of labor and our subcontractors to go down because we had previously, because of low interest rates, we had a real peak in construction. But now construction starts off approximately 25% in San Diego. So there are going to be a lot of people looking for work at the end of the year. So that's another thing. And as Andrew already alluded to, regulatory challenges, they're always out there. There is a new meeting with the city council on June 16th, which will make some tweaks to this current program. Doesn't affect us all at all on this current project, but we're always on top of what's happening in the regulatory environment. So kind of talked a lot about all this already. Market research, we're always looking. We always stay very conservative. As I'd mentioned, we go to third parties to vet our assumptions because we don't want to, be drinking our own Kool-Aid. We don't talk about any increases in appreciation, not for rents, no reduction in cap rate. And again, I'd mentioned this equity position. So we feel like the most important thing, it's kind of like Warren Buffett had said, right? The two biggest rules in investing, number one is don't lose money, and rule number two is look back at rule number one. So more than anything else, we want to protect the downside, and we feel like we do a good job at doing that. So another thing about the cost and the overruns, our construction is very simple, and we actually have, like, for example, the project that we showed you that is all done, the Bancroft project. We're actually using those floor plans on Choctaw.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's called type VA construction. So we're really dialing this down, and each time we complete a project, we just get that much better, and it's like a little 3 or 4% improvement, both in cost and timelines.
And then regulatory challenges. There's a little bit of news about ADU projects going away in San Diego. It's kind of not true. That they are changing a few of those regulations. But the nice thing is that our rules are the rules for this project are already locked in. So there's no risk of this project in particular being missing out on those rules, right? So we already have, we're already in place for that stuff, and we're working very closely with the city and the mayor and the city council members. We very tuned in to that regulatory stuff, and so they're all very pro housing. Just kind of depends on what does that pro housing look like. That's really the question mark is, is it 20 units or 100 units or 10 units, whatever it is, but there's not, we're very sure that there's no huge regulatory issues for us right now. And then exit strategies, we touched on this a little bit before, but the best way, the biggest premium we get is leasing it and selling it. And so the nice thing is that if you have a signed lease, you have a 12-month lease and a deposit on record, a buyer can take that and go to the bank and say, here's proven income from this property. and they can exit that they can purchase using a income-based loan, and it just makes it the easiest way for people to get to buy these properties. So it just makes it very nice, clear, concise way of doing it. But like Marcelo said, that if we need to, we can always just refinance and cash flow. We'll be in a really good position. We'll be in a cash flow position. Uh, uh, I have a cash on cash return analysis, but it's 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 good. It's a good cash on cash return. Not as high as developing, but it's a nice cash on cash return. So if we need to, we can always hold on to it. And then in this case, we actually wouldn't be able to do this. We already are shovel ready right now. So that's what we are doing is ready to go for this one. And then what's the big thing that makes us different? We are experts in ADUs. We built Marcelo's built a lot of these. We go to all the city council meetings. I've read every single rule. I've even read the proposals and all the stuff that the city. I've met with a bunch of the city council people. We met with a bunch of land use lawyers and architects. So we're experts in this. Marcelo has a lot of experience building and executing on these things. We're tech driven, so we have a little bit more of that 21st century technology for automation and task tracking. And a big one too, I didn't realize this was a big thing until we started talking to people. Co-investment. We are putting a lot of our own capital into this. So I put $100,000 on every single deal that we get into as an investor, right? And so I'm obviously highly incentivized to have the investments have a good return, and the numbers look good and the risk is mitigated and stuff. So big co-investment from us, and then of course Marcelo is connected to these things too. We're 24/7 doing this kind of stuff, and on top of that, like we're doing it individually, but also our friends and family are invested in these deals too. So these are not just strangers that we're working with. These are mostly people that we're very close with, friends and family and everything else like that. That's it. So if you're interested in this, if you want to get started, you can go to this link here, investor.avestarinc.com/nextwave. There's a QR code just to be fancy. You can scan that with your phone, and I'll also put this link in the chat. But on this platform, it's a pretty nice, easy platform. It's you sign up, do your sign up, put your email in, and then you should see this picture here, and then there's a soft commit. There's no obligation. There's no legal obligation when you do a soft commit. It just says, hey, I'm interested. Here's about how much I'm thinking about putting in. I want to learn more. I want to start seeing the legal documents and seeing more of the underwriting and stuff like that. But it's just an easy way for us to kind of let people raise their hands, see who's interested.
Yeah.
That's it. Awesome. Thanks for Bill and Chris and Kyle. Thanks for listening in.
Yeah, thank you.
Gonna put this in the chat here, and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions? Bill, did we answer all of your questions?
Yeah, I just had one more. So when you think about the buyer for these properties as they come available, can you just share a little bit about thus far what you're seeing? And then, obviously, I know what you're getting at. I call it like lather, rinse, repeat, is you're getting to the point where depending on how many of these units you want to put, you've got a formula, and therefore it makes each project easier. But I'm also thinking in terms of, who are the right targets to not only take an existing project, but the next two, three, four, five down the road. Are you seeing any trends like that of a buyer being a return buyer, or are these just, do they tend to be individuals looking for an investment?
They tend to be individuals looking for an investment. So a popular thing is, of course, 1031 exchange,
Yep.
and they might become well, maybe more popular, and also just with the new rules, there's something called bonus depreciation that is currently in the House version of the bill, and I think it's going to be in the Senate version. I think eventually some form of bonus depreciation is going to pass. It did before. So what that means is of course somebody would buy it, and I don't know, a doctor who runs a large practice on their own, they can take a lot of that depreciation and write it right off against their income, right? So you get people that do that. There was one that was sold, not ours, but one that sold in the market. Very similar to, I was told it was to a professional athlete from LA. So, these are, these aren't like institutional type buyers, right? They
Yeah.
tend to be kind of smaller. And a lot of times it's people who are taking advantage of a 1031 exchange. They've sold a strip mall and now they want to have something that's brand new and something that's fairly easy to manage, that kind of thing. Or maybe they had a fourplex and they want to move from a fourplex to a six, seven, eightplex.
You wouldn't even need something as big as that, right? Because you think about it, if somebody had bought a condo 15 years ago, lived in it 15 years ago, and they held on to it, or even a single family home, you'd probably have, if you held on to a condo or a single family home for 15 years, you probably have $1 million of equity in it,
Yeah.
right? In San Diego. So you take that $1 million of equity and you 3x it, right, by re-leveraging it, and now you can turn that condo or that single family home into a nineplex. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Another one
And
too. That I'm like, oh boy, I'm excited for this. I wrote a slide on it, but I thought, let's not get too complicated, and I took it out of the deck. Speaking of regulatory stuff, San Diego is voting in a few weeks to allow us to condoize these units, which means
Makes
that
sense.
we could sell them onesie twosies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the huge thing there is that it would be you know, easier to liquidate, and also you get, as far as I can know, you get about 10-15% premium for condos versus apartments. And so that would be a huge upside I'm very excited about.
yeah,
Yeah,
devil's in
that
the details
makes
on that one. So we don't want to talk too much about it because we don't actually know what the final regulations will be. But it's something that's already in the state of California. The ADU laws state that you must adopt this, whereas the state of California for the condo things for ADUs is you can adopt it. So the city is now, they've decided they will choose to adopt it, but they're going to have to come up with their own rules and regulations. So.
and just following on to that, those buyers, do you market to them in a different way in terms of them making them aware of the property, or is it just through traditional channels and there's enough interest and demand right now that you don't have to do anything special?
Are you talking about for the multifamily, the ADU stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah, commercial, it's commercial. So one of the things I don't know if
got it.
we didn't really mention, but we're taking something that's a residential property and turning it into a commercial property.
Yep,
So we go through commercial brokers and,
got it.
they have the buyers, the networks. It's an apartment building like any other. It's just
Very
a
good.
smaller one. It's not, a $50 million apartment building purchase. It's a $3 or $4 million apartment purchase. Yeah.
Very good. No, congratulations. It's great what you're doing. I think it's spectacular.
Thanks. Yeah, we're excited about it, especially as I said, as we continue to move along and get the systems dialed in, right? I just see a big future for this, a really big future.
Yeah, I love it.
Anybody else? Chris or
Chris
Kyle?
or Kyle, any questions? Or Bill? Um,
One other thing I will add, I mean, because I didn't, want to talk about it too much during this presentation, but another thing the state of California has done is there's another law called SB 1011 or 1211. And it seems like all of these new laws and regs from California, it used to be, and we also didn't talk about it because I didn't want to slow down the presentation, but my very first project, I had to sign an agreement that said I would not put a stove in it and that I would not rent it out. And that was something that had to be deed recorded with the county that we would not rent out a unit, a studio. It was a studio over a garage. The restrictive laws were so horrible throughout the whole state, and now they have done within roughly a 5-year period a complete 180. And now there's so many new laws that are coming that it gets a little challenging keeping track of all of them. But one of them states that if you find and purchase a multifamily building, if there's places, including the parking lot, you can replace the parking lot with more units and you don't have to replace that parking. So theoretically, you could buy an 8-unit building and you could turn it into a 16-unit building. And actually, I have a small partnership from the past that's a 6-unit where my partner there is adding 6 more units. And that's something we're going to bring into the fund, the ability to do that as well. But that's outside of the scope of what we're doing today. But there are more and more opportunities going forward to continue to do this.
love it. Chris, I saw you had unmute. I thought you have a question.
Yeah, sorry. Nice presentation, guys. So what was the type VA construction? It kind of slightly mentioned that during the presentation. I'm not too familiar with that.
Yeah,
Just
it's
forgot.
just it's wood frame construction. So there's different types, VA, VB, incorporate steel. So just would you see when you drive by and see somebody remodeling their home or a new house going up? That's what's called type VA construction.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
One thing, so we have a little bit of time here at the end of the hour. Can maybe get into a little bit of the numbers. Sometimes people's eyes glaze over and I show spreadsheets, so I'll go super quick and we'll go super nerdy on it. But I made this little, you can see our pro forma and our underwriting here that I'll put in the chat. So there's a pro forma, and so you can read through all of that. And then big thing here is looking at the model and how much the amount we're raising and the potential returns. And so a big thing here is that for the underwriting, I have kind of show the standard underwriting on this side. So I just call that pro forma. And then also just for the model, just again, every time I do the numbers, I try to get a little bit more conservative, just kind of rounding off the edges a little bit so that they're, a little bit worst case scenario. So we're not, have a little bit extra room there to extra wiggle room. But a big thing here is you can see the short of it is that we're expecting, something like a 22% return if we get done in 12 months. And if we do a little bit better, kind of hit these numbers we're expecting to hit. And I'll leave those there. Also, a big thing too is no market growth. I mean, San Diego is an appreciating market. We'll see what the next year holds. The interest rates are supposed to come down, but we just want to assume 0% just because we want to be a little conservative. The nice thing though is that San Diego does appreciate on average 6%, but if we put 3% in here, you can see the returns just get that much better, right? Because we're leveraged, so you get that 3%. 3% doesn't seem like a lot, but 3% leverage is quite a bit, right? And if you hit the 6%, getting even north of 30% return, which is awesome. And then the nice thing too is I do the math and I can get to even if we have a 10% drop in the market, which, knock on wood, we don't want that to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's no indicators that would happen, but we want to hope for the best and plan for the worst, right? Even a 10% drop because of the pref, because we give the first profits to the investors, we'd still expect a 10% return. So still roughly stock market returns if we had a negative 10% growth. And so I think when I did the math, I think it was like negative 15 is when yeah. So if we have a 15% drop, that would be, then we'd break even at that point. But that's kind of how those numbers work out.
Cool. That sounds really great.
Andrew and Marcelo, one thing I wanted to voice that I saw on one of the slides, but if I missed you touch on it, forgive me, but the proximity to SDSU in this project and the parents paying the rent. My brother-in-law owns property just adjacent to Yale in New Haven, Connecticut. And these are dream tenants for anybody who takes this property over. I mean, they have a line at their doors waiting to rent these places. So
Yeah,
congratulations on finding this. That proximity to transportation and the university, it's a no-brainer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're happy about this one.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.